In this video, I'm going to tell you what to do and specifically what not to do in a job interview. Now, to tell you a little bit about my background, I have a bachelor's degree in hospitality tourism management from Virginia Tech, and I worked as a manager and assistant manager in hotels and a restaurant. I have hired over 200 people, and unfortunately, I have fired 2 people. So I could tell you what employers are looking for as far as what to do in an interview. What's the telltale sign of what you're doing before the interview or during the interview or after the interview to say, this is not the person for me. Now, the good news is if you have already been called in for an interview, then you're 90% there. There's something about your resume or the conversation over the phone that they like. And so what they're doing is they're looking for a reason not to hire you. So the interview is like a litmus test. We're going to bring this person in, and if they do something before the interview or during the interview that I don't like, or something that won't mix well with our culture at this job or how we do things, then they're looking for a reason and for you to do something for them not to want to hire you. Now, this video is for people that are looking for entry-level jobs, but don't be mistaken, even if you're looking for a managerial position or some higher level position, this video is for you. Now, one thing to do before you go into the interview, please research yourself. Look on Google, look on Twitter and TikTok, look at all your social media accounts. Google your name, research your name, and see if you can find something that may not be so flattering about yourself to the employer. Now, there's a good chance that they've already done this, but maybe not. Maybe before the interview they do this, and they see something on your TikTok or your Facebook, and they're like, no, this person might not be a right fit, and you might get a call saying, hey, we already found somebody. That has happened a lot. And trust me, employers look and they research you on social media before they hire you. They look at what you type, the pictures that you post, something that may be kind of unflattering, and where they know that you might not be a good fit. You know, if you do stuff like this, they're looking for that. Anything they're looking for to say, hey, this is not the right person. So make sure you look at the handle on the email that you're using with the employer. Look at that handle and plug that into Google and see if anything comes up that you may need to delete. Before the interview, you know, they've already are 90% sure that they want you, most likely. But how should you present yourself before the interview, after the interview, and during the interview? So they're looking at your mode of transportation. How are you getting to work? How are you leaving work? Now, the obvious one is, of course, you never want to be late. You never want to be late for a job interview. But you also don't want to give that idea that you do not have a good mode of transportation. If you're catching a ride, that's okay. That's fine. But don't be loitering outside of the workplace after the interview for 15 minutes to an hour waiting for your ride. If you have to go to a secondary location to be picked up, do that. That's fine. Because if you're having an issue leaving work, they're going to say, okay, now we see a pattern here. They're already having a difficult time finding a mode of transportation. So this person will be late, or they'll be loitering and talking to the other employees during the work day. Then once you get hired, then you know you can be a little bit more relaxed on how you get there and back. But they're looking for that. They're looking at how you get to work and back. During the interview, make sure, if you can, leave this in the car, the smartphone in the car. But I understand you might want to bring it just in case they have a question for you that you may have to look up on your phone or some kind of contact information. That's fine. But don't silence your smartphone. Don't just put it on vibration. Completely shut it down. That way you will not be tempted. You will not be tempted to do this, you know, while before the interview, or if they go on break, or if they have to go to the bathroom. You do not want to be seen with this. You want this in your pocket, away from you. Because as a Generation Xer like I am, and there's a good chance that if you're hired, it's going to be from a Generation Xer or from a millennial. And we grew up in a time, especially Generation X, grew up in a time when smartphones did not exist. We were not doing this. We were looking at each other. So it's just not sometimes go with the culture of the company to always be on the phone. Now, they're looking at you and how you deal with a smartphone, because they're going to be saying, is this guy or this girl always going to be on their smartphone during work hours? Because we all know that's one of the most time-wasting times during work is people are on social media, they're on the computer, they're on their smartphone, and they're wasting away a lot of time. So, of course, after you get hired, you could be a little bit more relaxed and free. But if you're doing this during the interview, they know that there's a good possibility you'll be doing this during work. So make sure that you're very careful not to be doing this the whole time. But you want to keep a good posture. You want to smile. You want to have a positive aura about you. You want to make good contact. Look your employer in the eye. And when you meet them, you want to make sure you shake their hand and put a little bit, small little grip to the handshake. Don't be like a little wet clam where you're like this. A good handshake. Now, I'm from Generation X. We all knew this. We all used to do this. Now, I understand with the pandemic, a lot of people, try not to have any kind of physical contact. No, with your employer, you look them in the eye, you shake their hand, you put a little bit of grip to the handshake, not a lot, but a little tad. You look them in the eye, because most likely they're Generation X or Millennial, and they're looking for that contact with you. They're saying, hey, is this person engaging? How are they going to treat the other employees of my company? Are they going to be nice, or are they going to be upfront? Are they going to communicate? Or the people, if we're serving the public, how are they going to treat them? So they're looking at how you engage them. So you don't want to be standoffish. You don't want to be slumping in your chair. You want to be very precise, very direct, and conservative. And then when you get the job, then you could be a little bit more relaxed. You could be a little bit more, like yourself. When the employer is asking you questions, I want you to be direct and decisive, formal and exact of how you answer those questions. And I do not want you to go into the weeds. Now, what do I mean by going into the weeds? It's when, let's say I ask you, hey, what was your experience at your last job? Name me something positive. Tell me about some negative experience from your last employer. I do not want you to go into the weeds. So what I mean by that is I don't want you to go on this personal tangent that, hey, this person said this, and then my family member got involved, and then this happened, and then something with my vehicle, and then some kind of political drama, and then boom, 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 boom. You're just basically going into this tangent of these personal baggage problems that you could possibly be bringing in to their company, and they don't want any part of it. So if you're just exact and prompt, and I'm not saying be honest, you want to be honest, but just give us little information. You want to be caring and show that you're caring and that you're personable, but you don't want to be so personable that it's actually says something about your character, or that you go into the weeds too much, or you harbor negative feelings about your other employer or life in general or your family or something. I can't tell you how many times that I'm interviewing somebody and then they start talking to me about their ex-girlfriend or their ex-boyfriend or problems that they've had with their father, or some issue that has this drama that I just don't want any part of and I don't want in my company. So just make sure that you're polite, correct, and honest, but just be to the point. Personal experience story. I hired someone years ago to work front desk at a hotel, and there was a little hint that he had an issue with his ex-wife, and they had kids together and everything else. And I was like, there's something off, but we went ahead and hired him. He did everything right. He answered everything else correctly. But at the back of my mind, I was like, I don't know. Sure enough, it led to a 4-month period of her being at the front desk every day, complaining that he wasn't paying for child support. He wasn't doing this right. Shouting matches in the lobby. Her just burning up the phone, calling 4 or 5 times a day. And it took a while to get rid of him. But we had to. He was just interrupting the business. But it was just this onslaught of just personal stuff. And that's what you don't want that as an employer. You don't want that in your company. So please, if you're wanting to get hired, first of all, don't have this stuff spilling into your job. But secondly, you don't want to convey that you'd be this kind of person that would have all this personal stuff spewing into the workforce. Make sure that you do research on the company before you go into the interview. Find out about the company. Find out about their history, about any things that they're involved with as far as charity. Learn about the position and the company in general, and then ask the employer, ask them questions about the company, and then they'll think, oh, this person's actually doing the research. they're very interested in this position. If it's for a part-time position and they ask you how many hours you want, the worst possible thing that you can do is say, as many as I can get. I need work. I need as many hours as I can get. Now, a lot of people would say, well, that's a good thing, right? That means that they really want to work. No. If you're needing as many hours that you can get, it's kind of like with this personal drama. It's like, oh no, this person is just looking for quick money and that they're in dire need, and as soon as they can quit this job and go to another job that may pay higher or something else, they're willing to do anything just to make money. You want to look for somebody that's looking for a career, that will take their time, that will explore the job and learn from it, and it's not all about a quick fix or just trying to get a lot of money. And finally, at the end of the interview, don't be scared to ask for the position. Shake the employer's hand again and say, hey, if it's okay, I would like to have the job. If you can really consider me, I would love the job, and I'm asking you for the position. A lot of times the employer will be like taken off guard, like, oh my goodness, this person is being direct, but this is the kind of person I want for the company. So don't be afraid to ask for the position. At the end of the interview, again, like I said earlier, don't be loitering around the company. Be nice to everybody that you see, the other employees or the customers. Definitely don't be hanging out around the side of the building and be doing this. I can't tell you how many people that I was going to hire and they were perfect for the interview and they were perfect for the job, and then all of a sudden at the end of the job they were hanging around and they were doing this, and I could not stand seeing that. I wouldn't point directly ask people if they had this habit, but hey, they volunteered that information to me by doing that at the end of the workforce. If you're going to do this, go to a secondary location and do it off the premise. Now, lastly, the job interview is not over with yet. So the next day, don't be afraid to pick up that phone. Call them. Don't text them. Don't try to communicate by email. You pick up the phone and call Mr. Jones or whoever the employer is that could actually hire you. You call them up or leave a voicemail and say, I want you to know it was a pleasure talking to you for the interview, and I would love to have this position and have a great rest of your day. Okay, I'm telling you that right there. I've had potential employees do that, and they got the job just because they did that, because I was considering 2 people. So follow up. If they do not respond, a week later, call the employer. If you haven't heard anything back, call them again, because a lot of times these resumes, these applications, they may have forgot who they talked to. They got 10 people they're looking at, and then a week later, they're going to decide, and they're like, I'm deciding between 3 people. One person calls, and they're like, okay, I remember them. They smiled. They didn't talk about drama during the interview. They didn't look at their phone 100 times during the interview, and they weren't constantly doing this. Well, I do know that Raquel, she was doing that, and this person called me, they're hired. So you got to keep in mind the interview continues, not only before the interview, but after the interview. All right, I do appreciate you watching. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. All right, thanks again.